The Little Mermaid for NES, released in 1991 by Capcom and based on the 1989 Disney animated movie of the same name that's fondly remembered, and not the live-action movie that's... well, I'll stop there. You play as Ariel, the Little Mermaid thing who has to save the sea from the evil sea witch Ursula. How well does this game follow the movie? Well, according to the opening scene, Ariel tells Prince Eric that she's a mermaid who has to go now because her planet needs her. She has to go save the sea. Which is funny because one of the conditions for Ariel to take human form was the loss of her voice, so how would she... Okay, never mind. Anyway, you guide Ariel through 5 relatively straightforward levels, each scattered with evil critters and hidden treasures. Your main means of attack is shooting bubbles at enemies, which will trap them in bigger bubbles that you can pick up and toss at other enemies to kill them. Alternatively, you can also toss said trapped foes into little holes, which will usually yield bonus items and healing hearts. You can also use your fin to dig up items in the sand in certain spots. In addition, there are treasure chests which can only be opened with conch shells or other blunt means that will unveil pearls of either red or blue varieties. Red pearls increase the strength of your bubbles to the point where you can move large rocks and ensnare baby octopi into your bubbly trap, while blue pearls will increase the range of your attacks. If you lose a life, which happens when all your health hearts are depleted, you not only restart at the last invisible checkpoint you passed, but you lose all power-ups and are back to the rinky-dink whirlwind thing. Control's fairly straightforward. The A button shoots your bubbles and grabs onto other things that you could toss, while holding down the B button will make you swim faster. It works fine, though the extra speed does make Ariel seem a little more spastic to control, but that's to be expected. Other than that, it's solid control all around without having to worry about any underwater physics, which is nice for an underwater game. The Little Mermaid is best described as the NES equivalent of a kid's game. A game of typically lesser difficulty compared to the rest of its Disney cousins, and can be completed in under half an hour without much hassle. The levels are brief and straightforward with no deviation off the beaten path, and the bosses are the farthest thing from formidable once you've learned their basic patterns. The final level and its warping doors might be the only real troublesome spot, and even Ursula herself comes off as less of a threat than implied. Mind you, losing a life does undo all your stat boosts, and you'll have to start from scratch in terms of power, which might make things a tad more difficult. But it shouldn't be that hard to get back to that level if you find enough chests and conch shells and things of that nature. That said, while the game is a bit on the easy side, there is a little extra challenge for those more skillful players in regards to recovering all the treasures in those nook and crannies if you so desire. It's not much, but it's something, I suppose. The Little Mermaid does have some decent visuals, nothing top tier, but they get the job done. All the familiar characters from the film look the part, the general sprite work isn't too shabby, the one cutscene that gets recycled with either Flounder getting swapped with Sebastian or vice versa for variety being a thing. The background scenery looks pretty good. Sounds alright. I'll admit I haven't seen the movie in a good long while, in decades, so Under the Sea is probably the only song I recognize from the movie which plays on the title screen. But I'd imagine that's the only song from the movie in the game, and the rest of the tunes are original, cheerful, happy pieces, nothing too tense. Sound effects are just there, not much else to say there. Overall, The Little Mermaid is not that bad of an NES game. Its generally lower difficulty would have made for a good entry-level video game, but there's something for the more experienced lot as well. More of a middle-of-the-road outing for the Capcom Disney NES outings, which is still pretty good by all accounts.